everybody, it's Mrs. O'Connor. I'm here to do a little art project with you today. Like I often do in the classroom, we're going to begin by reading a story. And this story is called Maple. Maple by Lori Nichols. Maple loved her name. When she was still a whisper, her parents planted a tiny tree in her honor. And even though Flavia, Millie Jane, Lena, Lily, and Constance were all good names, Maple was the perfect fit. And as Maple grew, so did her tree. Sometimes when Maple was noisy, which was a lot, her parents sent her outside to play. Her tree didn't mind if she was loud. Maple would sing to her tree and sway for her tree and sometimes even pretend to be a tree. On some days when the wind was just right, Maple would simply lie under her tree and its leaves would dance just for her. Then one day, Maple noticed her tree was bare. Maple was worried her tree might get cold. So Maple took off her jacket and gave it to the tree to stay warm. Sometimes Maple wished she had someone else to play with. The tree wasn't very good at throwing snowballs. She wondered if the tree felt the same way. So Maple introduced her tree to a friend. That friendship didn't last. That snowman melted. But Maple and her tree still had each other. Through winter and spring. Then one day, something surprising happened. Then something really surprising happened. Maple became a big sister. Maple tried to be a big sister, a good big sister. If the baby was cold, Maple gave the baby her hat and gloves. If the baby was lonely, Maple would share her special friends. But Maple couldn't always make the baby happy. And when the baby was noisy, which was a lot, Maple would take her outside to play. And something magical happened. Maple's tree danced for them both. And there was just enough room under the tree for Maple and her little sister, Willow. So I hope you enjoyed that story about Maple and her tree. If you noticed the leaves, the illustrations of the leaves in the story were beautiful maple leaves from the maple tree. If you go outside in your yard or take a walk somewhere with your family, keep an eye out because there are a lot of beautiful maple trees with some pretty colored leaves all falling down right now because it's autumn. I was going to show you today how to draw a tree. And I know many of you know how to draw trees in many different ways, and artists really do use a bunch of different ways of drawing trees. But I was going to show you one way that I think is a good way to start making a tree. I begin with the main part of the tree, which is called the trunk. The trunk is the big part that comes up out of the ground and holds up the tree. And I think a rectangle is a really good shape to use for a trunk. So to make the trunk, I usually begin by making two parallel vertical lines, which are up and down lines, kind of like a rectangle, and I color those in. The bark on most trees is kind of bumpy and scratchy, so coloring in, leaving some spaces helps. Oftentimes where the trunk meets the ground, it gets a little bit wider because that's where the roots go that help hold the tree in the ground. Then after the trunk, the next step of drawing a tree are the big branches. And to make some big branches, you can do this a bunch of different ways, but I think the easiest way is to make a tall, skinny triangle. So I can go like this, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You can make as many big branches as you would like for your tree. You can also color those in. Then, off of the big branches are smaller branches. And the smaller branches come off usually at an angle from the big branches. And I can do it the same sort of a tall, skinny triangle shape. Up, down, and color it in. Up, down, color it in. Up, down. Sometimes saying the up, down helps me remember. Up, down. And trees have many, many small branches. If you go look carefully at a tree out your window or in your yard, you will notice all the different ways. And the nice thing about drawing trees is there's not really a right or a wrong way because every tree looks a little bit different. Then off the small branches come little tiny branches that I like to call twigs. And to make twigs, I just make a little line like this. Line, line, twig, 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 twig. And then, did you know that off of the twigs, that is where the leaves grow? So in the fall, all the leaves turn beautiful colors. And so the next step after you've drawn your tree is to add some beautiful leaves. You could add some leaves on the ground. You may want to draw someone like yourself or your friends around the tree, your family. You may want to draw some animals around the tree. You can make the leaves a bunch of different ways. If you have crayons or markers at home, think of the colors that you usually see in the fall. I see reds and oranges and yellows. So you can make the leaves with all of those colors. You could also, if you have markers or paints, you could use that as well to make all of the leaves. You can add things in your background. Don't forget to always sign your artwork so you can write your name. And when you are all finished, I would love to see your artwork. You can take a quick picture and send it back to me on Seesaw if you want. I hope you have a lot of fun with this. I'm going to tell you one more time the steps. Remember, the first step is the trunk. Second step, big branches, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Third step, little branches, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And fourth step, twigs, little lines. And then you can add the leaves. You could add apples. Maybe some of you have gone apple picking this fall. But I hope you have a great time making your trees. See you in school. Bye-bye.